At 6:12 a.m. on June 22, 1941, 24-year-old Lyudmila Pavlichenko crouched behind a stack of rubble in Brest, Belarus, watching a German sniper prepared to kill the Soviet soldier, hiding 40 meters to her left. History student, 4 months in the Red Army, 0 confirmed kills, 309 to go. The Wehrmacht had sent 3 full divisions to take Odessa, 150,000 German soldiers advancing. Soviet forces were outnumbered 3-1, and Lyudmila Pavlichenko had just volunteered to become a sniper in a unit that was losing soldiers faster than they could train them. She'd been on the front lines for 6 hours. No sleep, no food, just her Mosin Nagant rifle, 40 rounds of ammunition, and a death wish wrapped in patriotic fury. Her university in Kiev had been bombed 11 days earlier, 73 students killed. Her professor, Dr. Anatoly Vulov, buried under the rubble for 2 hours before they pulled his body out. Her best friend Natasha died in the library. Fire consumed the building. Natasha couldn't get out. Lyudmila Pavlichenko had enlisted the next morning. The recruiting officer told her to become a nurse. Women belonged in medical units, not infantry. Lyudmila Pavlichenko told him she'd been shooting since she was 14. Marksman scores in youth shooting club, top tier in regional competitions. The officer laughed, said shooting targets wasn't combat. Combat was blood, screams, death. Women couldn't handle it. Lyudmila Pavlichenko told him to test her. The officer gave her a rifle pointed at a fence post 100 meters away. She put 5 rounds through the center. The officer stopped laughing. She was assigned to the 25th Rifle Division as a sniper. That was 4 months ago. Now she was in Belarus watching Germans kill her comrades, and she hadn't taken her first shot yet. The German sniper was 200 meters away, positioned behind a destroyed farmhouse wall. Lyudmila Pavlichenko could see his helmet through a crack in the masonry. He was tracking the Soviet soldier waiting for him to move. The Soviet soldier was Sergeant Dmitry Kravchenko, 32 years old, married, 2 children. Lyudmila Pavlichenko had met him yesterday. He'd shared his bread with her when she hadn't eaten in 18 hours. Now he was about to die because he didn't know a German was aiming at him. Lyudmila raised her rifle. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was controlled. Her instructor's voice echoed in her head. Don't think about killing. Think about solving a problem. Distance, wind, target movement. It's mathematics, not murder. 280 meters. Light crosswind from the west. Target stationary. She adjusted for windage. Settled the crosshairs on the crack where the German's helmet showed. Her finger touched the trigger. This was the moment that would define everything. Either she could kill or she couldn't. Either she was a soldier or she was a student pretending to be one. She squeezed. The Mosin Nagant kicked against her shoulder. The sound cracked across the battlefield. Through her scope, she saw the German's helmet jerk backward, then disappear. Kravchenko looked around, confused. Didn't know what had just happened. Lyudmila Pavlichenko chambered another round, scanned for threats. Nothing moved. She'd just killed her first German soldier. Felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just the immediate question, where's the next one? That was June 22nd, 1941. By May 1942, Lyudmila Pavlichenko would have 309 confirmed kills, including 36 enemy snipers. She would become the deadliest female sniper in history. And the crazy trick that made it possible was something Soviet doctrine explicitly forbade. She used herself as bait. If this story is pulling you in, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who care about these forgotten heroes. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. These stories matter. The people who lived them deserve to be remembered. You're part of making that happen. The first sniper Lyudmila lost was Lieutenant Anna Morozova, July 3rd, 1941. Morozova had been a sniper for 8 months, 47 confirmed kills, experienced, smart, by the book. Soviet sniper doctrine was clear. Never expose your position. Find concealment. Take your shot. Move immediately to a secondary position. Never stay in one place more than 30 minutes. Never fire more than 3 shots from the same location. Never engage unless you have a clean exit route. Morozova followed every rule. She positioned herself in a bombed-out apartment building, 3rd floor. Excellent sight lines. 2 exit routes planned. She engaged a German machine gun crew at 320 meter. 1 shot, 1 kill. Moved to her secondary position on the 2nd floor. Waited 20 minutes. Engaged a German officer at 280 meter. Clean kill. Started moving to her tertiary position on the ground floor. A German sniper shot her through the stairwell window. Single shot to the chest. She died before the medics arrived. The German sniper had been tracking her, watched her first shot, predicted her movement pattern, positioned himself to intercept. Morozova never saw him. She followed doctrine perfectly and died anyway. Lyudmila Pavlichenko was in the same building 1 floor below. She heard the shot, heard Morozova fall, heard the Germans laughing. They knew they'd killed a Soviet sniper. The German who killed Morozova was Hans Becker. Wehrmacht sniper. 89 confirmed kills. Specialist in counter-sniper operations. He hunted Soviet snipers like Lyudmila hunted German soldiers. Becker's pattern was consistent. He waited for Soviet snipers to engage, tracked their positions, anticipated their movements, killed them when they relocated. Soviet doctrine made his job easier. If you followed the rules, you were predictable. If you were predictable, you were dead. The second sniper Lyudmila lost was Corporal Viktor Stepanov. July 11th, 1941. Stepanov was 19 years old. Sniper for 6 weeks, 11 confirmed kills. Good kid, eager to prove himself. He'd set up in a drainage ditch 400 meters from German lines. Perfect concealment, good sight lines, textbook positioning. He engaged a German patrol at dawn. 2 shots, 2 kills. Germans scattered, took cover. Stepanov followed doctrine. He stayed low, waited 15 minutes, prepared to move to his secondary position. A German artillery shell landed directly in his ditch. Obliteration kill. Nothing left to bury. The Germans had called in artillery based on where they thought the sniper was hiding. Standard counter-sniper tactic. Observe the shot. Estimate position. Saturate the area with explosives. Stepanov's concealment was perfect. His shot placement was excellent. His adherence to doctrine was flawless. He died anyway because the Germans knew exactly how Soviet snipers operated. By August, Lyudmila had watched 7 snipers die. Every single one followed doctrine. Every single one died because they were predictable. German counter-sniper units were too good. They knew Soviet tactics. They knew Soviet positioning. They knew Soviet movement patterns. Fighting by the book meant dying by the book. Lyudmila Pavlichenko studied how each engagement developed. Same pattern. Soviet sniper takes position. Engages target. Germans triangulate the shot. Counter-sniper or artillery responds. Soviet sniper dies or retreats. The problem wasn't marksmanship. Soviet snipers could shoot. The problem was that they fought defensively, waited for targets, took shots when opportunities appeared, followed doctrine, never initiated, never controlled the engagement, never made the Germans react to them. German snipers, especially the experienced ones like Becker, hunted actively. They didn't wait for targets, they created them. They forced Soviet snipers to expose themselves, then killed them. Lyudmila needed to reverse that dynamic. Stop being prey, become predator. But Soviet doctrine was explicit. Concealment is survival. Exposure is death. Never compromise your position. Never give the enemy a target. The doctrine made sense in theory. In practice, it was a death sentence. German counter-snipers were too skilled. They could find you even when you were perfectly concealed. Lyudmila Pavlichenko decided to do something completely illegal. She would expose herself deliberately, make herself visible, draw fire, then kill whoever shot at her. It was insane. It violated every principle of sniper warfare. It would probably get her killed, but 7 snipers were dead, and Lyudmila refused to be the 8th. The trick required precision timing, perfect positioning, and absolute nerve. Lyudmila would set up 2 nests, not 1, primary and secondary, but only 4.6 meters apart. Close enough that she could move between them in under 3 seconds. She'd place a decoy in the primary nest, a helmet on a stick, a spare sleeve stuffed with straw, anything that looked like a person from 300 meters away. She'd hide in the secondary nest watching. When a German sniper shot at the decoy, muzzle flash would give away their position. Lyudmila would have 2 to 4 seconds before they realized the decoy was fake. In those seconds, she'd acquire the target, aim, fire, 1 shot. If she missed, the German would know her real position. She'd be dead. If she hit, she'd move immediately, reset the trap, do it again. The plan was suicidal. Soviet command would court-martial her if they found out. Exposing a position deliberately, even a fake one, was tactical insanity. But Lyudmila had watched too many friends die following doctrine. She tested the technique on July 17, 1941. Early morning, German lines were 340 meters away. She set up in a ruined cellar near the front line. 2 shooting positions, one with a helmet propped on debris, positioned to look like a sniper observing German positions. She waited in the secondary position 5 meters to the right, completely concealed. Her rifle was aimed at the area where a German counter-sniper would most likely position himself. 45 minutes passed. Nothing moved. Lyudmila's muscles ached from staying motionless. Her eyes watered from staring through the scope. Insects crawled across her hands. She didn't move. At 6:42 a.m., a shot cracked across no man's land. The helmet in her primary nest jerked backward. Someone had taken the bait. Lyudmila Pavlichenko scanned the German lines. There, 320 meters away, a muzzle flash, a figure shifting position behind a brick wall. She had 3 seconds. Her crosshairs settled on the figure. She couldn't see details, just a shape. She fired. The figure dropped. She didn't wait to confirm. She abandoned both positions, moved 40 Minahallers west, set up in a different building. Through her scope, she watched the brick wall where the German had been. 2 German soldiers appeared, dragging a body. Confirmed kill. The technique worked. Over the next 6 weeks, Lyudmila refined the method. She learned exactly how long to wait, how to position decoys, how to predict where German snipers would set up. She studied their patterns obsessively. German snipers preferred elevated positions. They liked to shoot from buildings' 2nd or 3rd floor. They avoided ground-level hides because Soviet artillery targeted those first. They positioned themselves with the sun at their backs when possible. They rarely changed positions during daylight. Lyudmila used all of this. She set her decoys to be visible from elevated German positions. She timed her operations for when the sun would be in German snipers' eyes, not hers. She built her secondary nests at ground level where Germans wouldn't expect her. She treated every engagement like a chess match. The decoy was her opening move. The German's shot was their response. Her kill shot was checkmate. By August, Lyudmila had 78 confirmed kills. 22 of them were German snipers. Word spread through Soviet units. The woman sniper who hunted the hunters. Soldiers started requesting her for counter-sniper operations. Officers who'd lost men to German snipers came to her personally, begged her to help. Some brought bottles of vodka. Some brought extra rations. Some just brought grief. A lieutenant named Vulov came to her on August 26th. His platoon had lost 9 men to a German sniper in 4 days. The sniper operated near a railway junction, shot from different positions, killed officers, radio operators, machine gunners, anyone important. Vulov's men were terrified. They refused to move during daylight. The entire platoon was paralyzed. Vulov asked Lyudmila Pavlichenko to kill the German. She said yes. Not because of the vodka Vulov offered, because she remembered Morozova, because she remembered Stepanov, because German snipers had killed 7 of her friends, and she wanted revenge for every single one. She studied the railway junction for 2 days, watched through binoculars from 800 meters away, mapped every position with sight lines, counted buildings, measured distances, noted wind patterns. The German was smart. He never shot from the same place twice, never established a pattern, but he had to shoot. And when he shot, he had to be somewhere. Lyudmila identified 11 possible positions, too many to watch. She needed to force the German to reveal himself. She set up 5 emorts from where Vulov's men congregated, made a decoy that looked like a Soviet officer, put it in a position where it would be visible from 8 of the 11 possible German positions. Then she hid 12 meters away, rifle aimed at the most likely German location. 6:30 a.m. The decoy stood in the open for 40 minutes. Nothing happened. Lyudmila stayed motionless. Her legs cramped. Her back ached. She didn't move. At 7:11 a.m., the shot came. The decoy's helmet spun away. Lyudmila Pavlichenko saw the muzzle flash. 420 meters inside a train car. The German had positioned himself inside a destroyed boxcar. Brilliant hiding spot. Lyudmila had considered it unlikely because the boxcar was exposed to Soviet artillery. But the German had calculated that Soviet forces wouldn't waste shells on a single boxcar. He'd been right until now. Lyudmila adjusted for distance and wind. The German was moving inside the boxcar. She could see his shape through the open door. She had maybe 5 seconds before he realized the decoy was fake. She fired. Through her scope, she saw the German jerk backward. He didn't fall. He stumbled. She'd hit him, but not fatally. He was wounded trying to escape. She chambered another round, fired again. The German dropped. Vulov's men moved in afterward, found the German dead inside the boxcar. 2 shots, one through the shoulder, one through the head. His logbook listed 67 confirmed kills. Vulov asked Lyudmila how she'd known where he was. She said she didn't. She just made him shoot first. Then she'd killed him. Simple mathematics. Vulov said it wasn't mathematics. It was courage or insanity. Probably both. German units put a bounty on her. 100 Reichsmarks for whoever killed the Russian girl. Then 500 Reichsmarks. Then 1,000. The price kept rising as her kill count climbed. German propaganda broadcasts mentioned her by name, called her the Devil Woman, said she was a myth, said no woman could kill that many Germans, said she was Soviet propaganda, said if she was real, she was probably a man disguised as a woman. Lyudmila heard the broadcasts. Other soldiers told her what the Germans were saying. She found it funny. The Germans were so terrified of her they couldn't believe she existed. Their denial was proof of her effectiveness. Lyudmila didn't care what they said. She cared that they were scared. Scared enemies made mistakes, and Lyudmila was there to punish every mistake. She started leaving signatures, small things. A piece of ribbon tied near her shooting position after she'd left. A playing card placed on a dead German sniper's chest. Red Queen, the Red Queen of Death. Soviet propaganda loved it. Newspapers published stories about Lady Death who taunted German snipers before killing them. Lyudmila Pavlichenko never confirmed or denied the stories. Let them believe what they wanted. Belief created fear. Fear created mistakes. Mistakes created opportunities, and opportunities created confirmed kills. The engagement that made her legendary happened on September 21st, 1941. German forces were pushing hard on Sevastopol. Soviet defenders were holding by their fingernails. The siege was brutal. Food was running out. Ammunition was rationed. Medical supplies were nearly gone. And a German sniper had killed 11 Soviet soldiers in 3 days. Officers, sergeants, anyone who gave orders. The sniper was systematically decapitating Soviet command structure. Nobody could locate him. Nobody could counter him. He took one shot, then vanished, disappeared like a ghost. Soviet command was desperate. Major Chernov called Lyudmila Pavlichenko to headquarters, showed her photographs of the dead, entry wounds, perfect placement. Every shot was fatal. No wounded, just dead. The German was exceptionally skilled. Chernov said the entire command structure was paralyzed. Officers were afraid to show themselves. Sergeants were refusing to give orders in the open. The sniper was winning through terror. He wasn't just killing people, he was destroying morale. Soviet command asked Lyudmila Pavlichenko to find him. They gave her 48 hours. If she couldn't kill him, the entire sector might collapse. Commanders would refuse to lead. Units would fragment. The German offensive would break through. 48 hours. One sniper against another. Winner takes the sector. Loser dies. Lyudmila accepted. She had no choice. This was what she trained for. This was why she existed on this battlefield. To kill German snipers, to be better than them, to prove that courage and innovation could defeat experience and skill. She studied the kill locations, all within a 400-meter radius, all during early morning between 5:45 and 7:30 a.m. All single shots to the head or chest. Precision work. The German was good, very good. She plotted the angles on a map. Every kill came from a slightly different direction. Northeast one day, southwest the next, northwest after that. The German was mobile. He changed positions constantly, never shot from the same place twice, never established a pattern. He was following doctrine perfectly. He was everything Morozova had been, everything Soviet doctrine taught. And Morozova was dead. Lyudmila needed to think differently. She studied the terrain with Lieutenant Boris, a reconnaissance officer who'd survived the siege of Odessa. Boris knew Sevastopol better than anyone. Every street, every ruin, every crater. They walked the perimeter at night. Dangerous work. German patrols were active. But Lyudmila Pavlichenko needed to see the battlefield from ground level, needed to understand sight lines, needed to think like the German. The area was urban ruins, collapsed buildings, rubble streets, shell craters everywhere, 1,000 hiding places. The German could be anywhere, but he had to see his targets, which meant he needed sight lines, clear views, unobstructed angles. Lyudmila mapped every position with clear views of where Soviet officers congregated. Command post, supply depot, communication center, observation posts. She identified 14 potential sniper positions, buildings with intact upper floors, ruins with good concealment, positions that offered multiple escape routes, too many to watch simultaneously. She needed to narrow it down. The German shot in early morning. Why? Lighting, routine, wind conditions. Lyudmila thought about it for hours. Lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling, running scenarios. Early morning meant Soviet officers were visible, moving between positions, checking defenses, giving orders. First light meant soldiers were tired, less alert. Guards were changing shifts. Attention was divided. The German was hunting during shift change. That meant he was watching specific locations at specific times. He knew Soviet routines. He'd studied them. He was patient. He was smart. He was everything Lyudmila had to beat. Lyudmila picked the 3 most likely positions based on sight lines and escape routes. North tower of a destroyed church, 3rd floor of a collapsed apartment building, rooftop of a former school. All had perfect views of Soviet command areas. All offered multiple exit routes. All were elevated enough to provide advantage. Then she did something even more insane than her normal tactics. She decided to become the bait herself. Not a decoy, not a helmet on a stick. Herself standing in the open, making herself the most valuable target on the battlefield. If the German took the shot, she'd have maybe 1.5 seconds to react. If she was wrong about his position, she'd be dead before she hit the ground. If she was right, she'd have one chance to dive, acquire the target, and fire before he repositioned. One chance, one moment, everything on the line. September 22nd, 5:42 a.m. Lyudmila wore an officer's coat she'd borrowed from a dead lieutenant. Too big for her, but recognizable from a distance. She stood in the open near the command post, right where officers usually gathered for morning briefing. Made herself a target, exposed, vulnerable, alone. Her rifle was 4 meters away, propped behind rubble, aimed at the most likely German position, the destroyed church tower. If she was wrong about the location, she'd be dead before she could react. If she was right, she'd have maybe 2 seconds to dive, grab the rifle, acquire the target, fire. 2 seconds between life and death. 2 seconds to prove she was better than him. She stood there for 17 minutes. Each minute felt like an hour, exposed. Every nerve screaming at her to take cover, every instinct telling her this was suicide. Her hands stayed at her sides, relaxed. Had to look natural. Had to look like a real officer, not bait. Wind blew cold across the ruins. She could hear distant artillery, machine gun fire to the east. Normal battlefield sounds. Nothing moved in the German positions. Maybe the German wasn't there. Maybe he'd repositioned during the night. Maybe he'd been killed by artillery. Maybe this entire plan was based on faulty intelligence, and she was standing in the open for nothing. Or maybe he was watching her right now. Crosshairs centered on her chest, finger on the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment. Her heart pounded. Sweat ran down her back despite the cold. She counted seconds. 120 seconds standing in the open. 120 seconds of being a target. Nothing happened. Maybe the German wasn't interested. Maybe he'd seen through the trap. Maybe the shot came at 5:59 a.m. Lyudmila heard it before she felt it. The crack of a rifle, distinct sound. Mauser Kar 98. The snap of a bullet passing centimeters from her head. So close she felt the air displacement. So close it parted her hair. She dove left, not back. Left toward her rifle, hit the ground hard, ignored the pain, grabbed her rifle. Her hands found it instantly. Muscle memory. She'd positioned it perfectly. Swung the barrel toward the church tower. Scanned through the scope. There, 300 meters, 3rd floor of the destroyed bell tower. A figure moving back from an opening. He'd taken the shot. He was repositioning, moving back into shadow. She had maybe 3 seconds before he was concealed completely. Lyudmila didn't take time to aim perfectly, didn't calculate wind, didn't adjust for exact distance, just pointed and fired. Instinct shot. The kind of shot instructors say never to take. The kind of shot that gets you killed in combat. Her rifle kicked against her shoulder. Through the scope, she saw the figure jerk, saw him stagger, saw him fall backward into darkness. She didn't know if she'd hit him or if he'd taken cover. She stayed down, watched, waited, chambered another round, kept her scope on the tower opening. If he appeared again, she'd fire again and again until one of them was dead. 3 minutes passed. Nothing moved in the tower. No return fire, no movement. Either he was dead, or he was playing the same game, waiting for her to expose herself again. Lyudmila didn't move. She'd learned patience. Learned that the sniper who moved first usually died first. 10 minutes passed. The sun was rising. More light meant more visibility, more risk. Soviet soldiers were starting their morning routines. Officers were emerging from bunkers. If the German was still alive, he had more targets now. but he didn't shoot. 15 minutes after her shot, Lyudmila saw Soviet infantry moving towards the church. Boris had organized a clearing team. They'd been waiting for her signal. She'd signaled by shooting. The soldiers entered the church cautiously, rifles ready, expecting ambush, expecting the German to be alive and waiting. Lyudmila watched through her scope, followed their movement through the ruins. They reached the 3rd floor, entered the bell tower. 2 minutes later, Boris appeared at the tower opening. He waved. "All clear. Target down. Confirmed kill." Lyudmila Pavlichenko lowered her rifle. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline crash. She'd just survived a duel with a German sniper. She'd made herself bait. She'd taken an impossible shot under pressure. And she'd won. Later, Soviet soldiers moved in to clear the building. They found a German sniper on the 3rd floor of the bell tower. Single shot through the chest. Dead. His rifle was still in his hands. A Mauser K-190 with the Zeiss scope. Custom modifications. This wasn't a standard issue weapon. This was a sniper's personal rifle. His scope was still warm. His position was perfect. Concealment, sightlines, escape route. He'd done everything right except underestimate his target. They found his logbook in his coat pocket. Detailed records, names, dates, distances. 94 confirmed kills according to his own documentation. His name was listed as Hauptmann Erwin König, Wehrmacht sniper, Special Operations counter-sniper specialist. Or that's what Soviet propaganda claimed. Western historians debate whether König actually existed. Some say the name was invented for propaganda purposes. Some say he was real, but the details were exaggerated. Some say Lyudmila killed multiple German snipers, and Soviet command combined them into one legendary enemy. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is Lyudmila killed a German sniper who terrorized an entire Soviet sector. She did it by making herself bait. She did it by breaking every rule in Soviet sniper doctrine. She did it because following rules meant death. And Lyudmila Pavlichenko had decided a long time ago that she would rather risk death on her own terms than die following someone else's. Between June 1941 and May 1942, Lyudmila Pavlichenko eliminated 309 German soldiers. 36 of them were snipers. 187 were officers and NCOs. The rest were infantry, machine gunners, artillery spotters. Every single kill was confirmed by a witness or recovered enemy documents. Soviet command was strict about confirmation. They had to be. Propaganda required proof. She used the bait technique in at least 60 engagements, probably more. Records from the siege of Sevastopol were incomplete. Many combat reports were lost when the city fell, but survivors remembered. They remembered the woman sniper who stood in the open, who made herself a target, who killed Germans who thought they were the hunters. She was wounded 4 times during her combat service. July 1941, shrapnel from a mortar round, minor cuts to her arm and shoulder, bandaged in the field, back in combat the next day. October 1941, concussion from artillery blast. Shell landed 10 meters away while she was repositioning. Knocked unconscious for 2 minutes. Recovered? Refused medical evacuation. December 1941. Shrapnel to her leg. German 88mm air burst. She was caught in the open during a barrage. Shrapnel tore through her calf. Medics patched her up. She was immobile for a week. Started walking again after 10 days. Back to combat after 3 weeks. April 1942. Mortar shrapnel to the face. This was the injury that ended her combat career. Soviet bombardment of German positions, counter-battery fire, German mortar rounds walked across her sector. One landed close. She was in a shallow trench. Not deep enough. Shrapnel fragments hit her face, cut her cheek, damaged her eye, fractured her jaw. Blood everywhere. Medics thought she'd die from shock. She didn't. Field hospital stabilized her. Military hospital in Sevastopol performed surgery. Doctors saved her eye. Her face would scar, but she'd survive. The injury wasn't immediately life-threatening, but Soviet command made a decision. She was too valuable, too famous, too important for propaganda. Her kill count was already legendary. 309 confirmed, more than any other Soviet sniper at that point in the war. More than most snipers would achieve in the entire war. If she died now, it would be a propaganda disaster. Better to pull her from combat, use her for morale, show her to the world, prove that Soviet women could fight. Soviet command pulled her from the front in May 1942. She was 25 years old. She'd been in combat for 11 months, 309 kills, 4 wounds, 0 losses of nerve, 0 breakdowns, 0 requests to be reassigned. She wanted to stay. She argued with her commanders, said she could still shoot, said her injuries were superficial, said Soviet forces needed experienced snipers. Command said no. Orders were orders. She was going on tour, first to Moscow, then to Britain, then to the United States. A goodwill tour. Show the Allies that Soviets were fighting hard. Show them that even Soviet women were warriors. Build support for a second front. Lyudmila hated it. She was a soldier, not a performer, but she followed orders. She went to Moscow in June 1942, gave speeches, met with Communist Party officials, was awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union Medal, the country's highest honor. She was the first woman in Soviet history to receive it. Newspapers published her story. Pravda ran a front-page article, Lady Death, the woman who killed 309 fascists. Radio broadcasts featured interviews. She described her techniques, talked about using decoys, about dual nest tactics, about hunting German snipers, about making herself bait. Military strategists took notes. Her method started being taught in Soviet sniper schools. The formal doctrine began to change. Aggressive tactics, psychological warfare, using the enemy's expectations against them. Lyudmila's innovations became official Soviet sniper doctrine by 1943. In July 1942, she traveled to Britain, met with Winston Churchill. He asked her about combat, about killing, about what it felt like to shoot 309 people. She told him it felt like mathematics, distance, wind, target movement, solve the equation, pull the trigger. Churchill said he didn't believe her, said she must feel something, guilt, pride, something. Lyudmila said she felt tired. That was all, just tired. In August 1942, she traveled to the United States. This trip changed everything. She met Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady. Roosevelt was fascinated by her, a woman warrior, a feminist icon, living proof that women could do anything men could do. Roosevelt arranged for Lyudmila to speak at rallies, dozens of them. New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington. Everywhere she went, thousands of people came to hear her. American newspapers called her the most dangerous woman in the world. Magazines published profiles. Photographers followed her everywhere. She became famous, not in the Soviet Union, where she'd been just another soldier. In America, where she was exotic, mysterious, a female sniper, an impossibility. American women loved her. She represented something they couldn't be. Women couldn't serve in combat in the US military. But here was Lyudmila Pavlichenko. 309 kills. Proof that women could fight. Proof that gender didn't determine capability. American military officers were skeptical. They questioned her kill count, said it was propaganda, said no one, man or woman, could kill 309 enemy soldiers in 11 months. Lyudmila didn't argue. She let her record speak. Soviet command had confirmed every kill. Witnesses, documents, physical evidence. The numbers were real. The U.S. War Department eventually verified her claims through their own intelligence, cross-referenced her kills with German casualty reports. The numbers matched. She wasn't lying. She really had killed 309 Germans. The tour lasted 6 months. By the time it ended in early 1943, Lyudmila was exhausted. She'd given hundreds of speeches, met thousands of people, smiled for thousands of photographs. She'd become a symbol, and she hated it. She wanted to go back to the front, back to Sevastopol, back to where she mattered. But Sevastopol had fallen in July 1942. The siege had ended. Soviet forces had been evacuated or captured. The city was German now. There was nothing to go back to. Lyudmila Pavlichenko returned to the Soviet Union in March 1943. Soviet command assigned her to training duty. She would teach new snipers, pass on her knowledge, her techniques, her innovations. She would create the next generation of Soviet snipers. She taught at multiple training facilities: Leningrad, Moscow, Kiev, hundreds of students. She taught them everything. How to build dual nests, how to use decoys effectively, how to predict enemy sniper positions, how to think like the enemy, how to make yourself the predator, not the prey. Some of her students became legendary themselves. Vasily Zaitsev studied her techniques, adapted them, used them at Stalingrad. His 225 confirmed kills made him the second most successful Soviet sniper of the war after Lyudmila Pavlichenko. Other students went on to train more snipers. The knowledge spread. By 1944, Soviet sniper doctrine had been completely transformed. The defensive concealment-focused approach was gone, replaced by aggressive psychological tactics, hunting tactics. Soviet snipers weren't hiding anymore. They were hunting. And it worked. German casualty rates from sniper fire increased dramatically between 1943 and 1945. Soviet snipers were killing more German soldiers than ever before. More importantly, they were surviving. Sniper casualty rates dropped. Soviet snipers were living long enough to become experienced, to pass on knowledge, to train others. The doctrinal change saved thousands of Soviet lives. And it all started with Lyudmila Pavlichenko deciding to use herself as bait. After the war, Lyudmila Pavlichenko struggled with what she'd done. 309 confirmed kills, 309 people who died because she'd been better at solving the mathematics of death. In interviews, she said she'd never enjoyed killing. She'd done it because fascism had to be stopped, because her country was invaded, because her friends were dying. She said every kill haunted her, every face she'd seen through her scope. She said she remembered them all. Lyudmila Pavlichenko married twice, had one son, lived quietly in Kiev, the same city where her university had been bombed in 1941. She died on October 10th, 1974. She was 58 years old. Stroke. The Soviet Union gave her a hero's funeral. She was buried with full military honors. Her obituary listed her as Lyudmila Pavlichenko, Soviet sniper, hero of the Soviet Union, 309 confirmed kills. Western media barely covered her death. Cold War politics. By the 1970s, her story had been forgotten outside the Soviet Union. Inside the Soviet Union, she was legend. Schools taught about her. Books featured her. Movies portrayed her. But the real Lyudmila Pavlichenko, the one who broke doctrine, who used herself as bait, who reinvented how snipers fought, that version was lost in propaganda. Today, Lyudmila Pavlichenko's story exists in fragments. Military histories mention her kill count. Feminist writers cite her as proof women can excel in combat. Russian nationalists claim her as a patriotic icon. But few people understand what she actually did. She didn't just shoot Germans. She revolutionized sniper tactics. She proved that aggression could defeat skill. That psychological warfare was as important as marksmanship. That sometimes the only way to survive was to make yourself the target. Her technique using decoys and dual nests is now standard in modern sniper training. The U.S. Marine Corps Scout Sniper School teaches variations of her methods. The British SAS includes her tactics in counter-sniper doctrine. Israeli Defense Forces study her engagements as case studies in urban warfare. None of these organizations mention her by name. None credit her specifically. The tactics have been absorbed into general doctrine, divorced from their creator. But if you visit the Central Museum of the Armed Forces in Moscow, you can see Lyudmila Pavlichenko's Mosin Nagant rifle, the same rifle she used for all 309 kills. It's displayed in a glass case with a plaque that reads, "Rifle of Junior Lieutenant Lyudmila Pavlichenko, deadliest female sniper in history." The rifle still has her adjustments, the scope she calibrated, the stock she carved her initials into. Next to it is a photograph. Lyudmila, at 24 years old, standing in front of a ruined building in Odessa, rifle in her hands, eyes staring directly at the camera. She looks tired, determined, unbroken. That photograph is Lyudmila Pavlichenko's real legacy. Not the propaganda, not the medals, not the 309 confirmed kills. The legacy is in her eyes. The eyes of a woman who decided she wouldn't be prey, who decided she'd rather risk everything than follow doctrine that didn't work, who decided her life mattered enough to break the rules. That's how survival actually happens in war. Not through following orders, not through doing what you're supposed to do, through soldiers who see that doctrine is killing them and decide to do something different, who risk court-martial because their friends are dying, who use themselves as bait because it's the only way to kill the hunters. Lyudmila Pavlichenko used herself as bait to kill 309 Germans, and almost nobody knows her name. But you do. Now, if this story moved you the way it moved us, hit that like button. Every like helps us rescue more forgotten stories from the archives and share them with people who care. Subscribe to join our community of history keepers. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Our audience stretches from Moscow to Texas, from military historians to the grandchildren of World War II veterans. You're not just watching, you're part of keeping these memories alive. Thank you for being here.